So thank you for the nice introduction, and thank you for having me here. 'Cause it's really nice to make a collection of work and then to actually see somebody else put it all together. I called the show Trinity. I guess I should start. I had a show in the South Gallery back in October, so I kind of started making work for this show right after because I knew they're pretty close. It takes me a long time to even think of an idea and kind of develop it. And so um, over the last little bit, I've kind of been trying to embrace kind of the repetition and um, kind of that meditation that happens when you do things repeatedly. I knit a lot. I think within any religion, a lot of it is going around beads or something about always kind of seeing something in a new way, a new meditation of kind of in the repetition. And so um, going from the show in October, I really liked this one spot on Highway 96. And I thought, you know what, I'm not done with it yet. And so, yes, I want to make a whole new body of work, but I just want to go back there and do it again and do it better and try again. So I picked that spot, and that was kind of they're over on that wall. So I kind of started. I went back. I was doing drawings and kind of thinking about that and kind of evolving with that idea of that one spot. And then I thought, what if, because I am repeating and things are kind of evolving and thinking about that. What if I made them in groups of three? And so they're all from 3 points on Highway 96. And so they're all within, I'd say, 7-8 miles of each other. And kind of thinking of the idea of just in terms of three, of, even past, present, future, and, morning, afternoon, night, and kind of looking at one thing, but seeing it in 3 different ways. So they're not necessarily, this group talks about this thing. They're all kind of my own investigation of kind of the essence of being in one place and doing that in different views. And so it was really nice to kind of pass the work off to Gundy too, because she doesn't know exactly what's in my head for it too. She doesn't know these 3 spots. And so having it be, having her carry it on where it is one thing. So they're all kind of this one view that goes together. And let's see, I've lost my train of thought on that. I think part of it too is, the process for me changed a little bit in this group of work from the last group, because I've always kind of done, one of each, or I do a drawing and then I do a painting and I do a drawing and I do a painting and kind of go like that. And this was more, I'd started drawing there and then I'd started painting and then I'd drive back and I'd start another drawing here and then I go back. And so they kind of were more of a back and forth, which is for me kind of the way that I paint too, of kind of having, thick and thin and kind of just a more slow way of, of doing something. So from probably, mid-October through maybe a couple of weeks ago, I was still driving out there a lot. The first spot that I did was right by the reservoir. And normally I've been doing my drawings in my car, which I've told some of you, my car has recently died, and it's very sad to me because it's been my studio for, I'd say, the last 5 years. I've done the majority of my drawing in there. But one set I did, I made a little backpack so that I could carry these nesting trays. So with all of the paper pieces, I do them from life. I put them in little trays where it's cream color, brown, and then a darker color. And then I nest them so that I can keep the paper from blowing away, and then I can spread them out and maybe not get them all over my car. But anyway, I made this little backpack, and so it's super nerdy, um, but I carry stuff out there. So there's 3 of them that I did outside, um, and then the rest I kind of did behind my steering wheel, um, which I broke my own rule because at first I was only going to do them from life. But there's a real, and maybe it was again my car. You can only get so far back, so I made a little attachment to go on my steering wheel, and then I hook it in with the cleat. So really, unless you put your whole chair back, you're kind of here the entire time, which has its own set of issues too, because it's kind of fun to mess with your own idea of how things look, because then you take it home and you're like sometimes I mean, it's so out of proportion sometimes. And what I'm really trying to do is keep things spatially correct. Um, so it makes another um, challenge for that. Um, but anyway, so I've been working on them at home as well, so that I can maybe think back and use more kind of the muscle memory of being in a certain place, so that I don't have to um, rush it, and then I can go back and see if I was right or wrong. Um, and that's also why, so a lot of what I'm interested to is kind of that organic versus man-made kind of within the landscape. And some of that is just so I remember where to park my car. So I can always, like with something that's man-made, if it's a power line, I know the distance. I know it so that I can sit there and I know distance between here and here, so I know where to park my car. So I can keep going back over time, and um, there's one constant to it, because the clouds are never the same, shadows are never the same, all of it kind of changes, which is something I'm really interested in, but it's nice to have that one thing that really sticks. Back to I don't want to necessarily have to say it's a time of day or anything, so it's kind of more of an intuitive choice on the colors. I kind of like to keep them all within like a family, so that it kind of makes sense. And some of them, I will admit, are I really like when it's almost nighttime, or when the sun is starting to set and it makes all of the light on the ground turn orange. Um, and so I use a palette knife a lot, and so a lot of it is a thin down. Um, I use a poppy oil, um, and then I make my own paint, so I can kind of control how much binder is in it. So for the thicker, it's just a palette knife, and then it's like a poppy oil thin down to make kind of the drips on it. So that's part of going back to the same place. You kind of develop a little bit of a muscle memory, and you kind of know, um, and then just going back a lot and looking at it again. But I sometimes think the reference photos, they flatten it and they make it just one moment. So I almost feel like I'm tracing, or it's not really what I'm trying to show. I do take a lot of pictures though, so I mean it's not like I don't have pictures of all of these. Yeah, and I think I went to the New York Studio School, which they had a very strong um, drawing program. So when I went to school, we did 4 hours of drawing every day, and so I think there's kind of a way of looking and responding that happens in drawing, um, that is different from a collage where you're looking more at the actual artwork that you're creating. Almost, I mean, not that well, I don't. You're not kind of responding to what's out there. It's I'm actually trying to draw what it feels like to be in the landscape and using paper as planes. And um, I started off doing a lot of charcoal drawings or pencil drawings, and I started using the paper kind of as a way to stop myself from focusing so much on drawing around something, because I really wanted to be able to um, feel what the landscape was like. And so I think when you're drawing with a pencil, or at least for me, I just want to do minutia and draw around something and fill something in. And when I can use the paper, it allows me to stop doing that and focus on how it feels and what I actually want to be important, and to hold. But I don't exactly know the whole history of collage, so I mean, it could be very well that they're doing that too. But that's why I think of them as more of drawings. I don't know why, but I do know when I went to school, it was very much about working from the figure, and so I did that for undergrad and grad. And for my thesis show, I was doing these like little cardboard sculptures of the figure and then making them into landscapes. And so I think in the back of my head, I've always um, wanted to do a landscape. And I think part of it is um, I like how you feel when you're in the landscape and it's kind of your own. And so, you know, when you see it, I hope you also feel like you're there and you make it your own. Um, Whereas sometimes when you're doing figures, there's a definite story that's already there. I think so, and um, I think there's some comfort too in having one constant within like your own time frame. Just I think we all kind of do a return to one thing or a routine, um, and I think that's kind of what's interesting in the repetition too. Of I can do it again, and it's different again, and time has passed, and hopefully those moments can kind of come together where it isn't just about that one time that I went there. It's about all of the times that I was there. I think that's the trouble is I don't. And I think that was part of what happened like in October. I just wasn't done with it yet. And so instead of, because I think in the back of your head, you always want to be changing and just changing, doing like, we're done with this, we're moving on to this. Or, because I even do that with a color where I just keep repeating it and repeating it until finally it's not there anymore and I forgot that I was interested in that color altogether. So I think it's like that with like a series of work. It just like I'm not actually sure that this is the end of these. Um, I think they might still go on and just morph until it's something else.